All right, excited to get going here in week one. Got a very formidable foe in the Baltimore Ravens. Really well coached, have a ton of respect for Coach Harbaugh and his staff. And then you look at it, offensive, defensive teams, they're a very complete football team. They went 14-2, won the division, have the reigning MVP. On offense, I just think they're strong at every level, big offensive line, tight end who's outstanding, the receivers, they can get them the ball in a bunch of different ways. And then, Lamar is so dynamic, can run it, throw it. Defensively, Coach Martindale does a great job. Multiple looks, very aggressive. Adding Calais Campbell and Wolf, I think, is a huge boost to them as well. Just big physical players in the back end, physical man coverage, mix and zone. They added Patrick Queen this year. So impressive group throughout, and we're really diving into our preparations as we speak here on Wednesday.
All right. Thank you very much, Coach. Our first question will be from Tom Withers.
Hey, Coach, we had JC on. He sounds like he's going to try to give it a go. Does the fact that you guys will play then on Thursday after Sunday have any bearing on maybe even more of a cautious approach with him?
I think we just want to be smart, Tom, with all of our players and all of the circumstances. But we'll see how JC looks today and really won't make a determination until later in the week.
And if I could ask you about Baker, we were talking to him before. There's a long list of excuses he could use for the way that he played last year. And he doesn't do that, Kevin. And what does that say about his character and just kind of that commitment and that focus that we've talked about with him?
Yeah, Tom, I would just tell you we're not interested in excuses. I don't think anybody wants to hear them. And we're so focused on 2020. I think Baker speaks to that as well.
Thank you, Tom. Our next question will be from Scott Petrick.
Hey, Kevin. Pretty much right after you were hired, Kareem had that one incident, and Jimmy Haslam said it's unacceptable. What has he done to earn the trust of the organization that you guys have given that extension yesterday?
Yeah, I think Kareem's been outstanding in the building, in the meeting rooms, on the field. Obviously, we think highly of him as a player, but I just can't tell you how impressed I am of him as a teammate. I think he's all in, he's always supporting his guys, and really treats the team in a way that I think speaks to the rest of the guys that this guy's very serious about ball. And then to your point, Scott, I mean, he's made sure that he's living the right way and doing the right things, and that's obviously a big part of this.
Thanks.
Great. Next question goes to Jake Trotter.
Yeah, Kevin, you ready to reveal your plans for offensive play caller yet?
No, I will get to that, though, I promise.
All right. Thanks, Jake. Go to Mary Kate.
Hey, Coach, last time we saw, any meaningful reps from Baker Mayfield, he, struggled a little bit down in the scrimmage. Last thing I saw was him throw that interception. Did he come back with that with maybe even a higher sense of urgency and just really grind it over these last how many ever days since then? And how do you feel about his preparation to this point?
Yeah, Mary Kay, I would tell you all of our players going through training camp, it's a process that you want to get better each and every day. So you mentioned that moment, that practice in the stadium. I hope Baker and all of our guys are getting incrementally better from then. And it's just losing some of the reps of those preseasons. We just have to coach off the tape. And he's been very, very diligent in his preparations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Next one goes to Tony Grossi.
Two things. First, real quick, Kevin, this new process of protecting 4 players from the practice squad by Tuesday evening, what will go into it for you? Is that game opponent, or what factors go into it?
I think a lot of factors go into it, Tony, and Andrew and I will sit down and take input from the coaches and just think about guys that we want to protect that week. And it may vary each week. And you really start the protection there on Tuesday. So on Monday, all of the practice squad around the league is unprotected.
And the other question is about the Kareem Hunt contract. When you add in, what you guys did on the offensive line, what you do with the tight ends, and the prospect of Nick Chubb getting recommitted somewhere down the line, it looks like a big commitment to the run. Is that a proper assumption or not?
I don't think so, Tony. I think it's it does speak to a commitment for sure. Anytime you go out and get the players that you mentioned. But we look at it, we'll move the ball any which way we can.
Nate Ulrich, you're up.
Hey, Kevin. Just wondering if there are a couple things. I know you got to focus on the Ravens and how locked in you got to be, but is there anything going through your mind about the pandemic and here we finally are and you guys are ready to get on the field and play football? Is there any sense of appreciation given everything that's gone on that this thing is actually going to happen?
And I would tell you there's always a sense of appreciation for what this organization has done to keep our players, coaches, and staff safe with all the protocols. I think absolutely that comes to mind every day. By the same token, when you get into game week, this is Wednesday. It feels like Wednesday. We're practicing what we do on Wednesday. So we get so consumed in the process, consumed in the preparation of this thing. We kind of put tunnel vision on. But I would say I do feel a ton of appreciation for what this organization has done.
And then speaking of tunnel vision, I know every game's so important and how much focus goes into all of them. But is there something about week one that carries I don't know if a little more importance is the right way to say it, but just the idea of getting off on the right foot, getting out to a good start, especially against a division opponent. How much value do you place on that?
I mean, 32 teams want to get off to a good start. 16 of them will, 16 of them won't. So our goal doesn't change going into any week. We're trying to win that football game, and they're all big games. So obviously the focus goes on week one because there's so much time in the off season to stare at that schedule. But we're going to make sure that we put together a plan on offense, defense, and special teams to give our guys a chance to play fast.
Scott Petrick, back to you. Scott, if you could hit. Yep, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. Hey, the dynamic between Nick and Kareem, it feels like it could be interesting. Both guys, same position. Both guys want the ball. What have you seen between those two guys?
Very competitive players, outstanding practice players. They support each other. They're all about the team.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Daryl Ryder.
Hey, Coach, you're going into an unusual circumstance for week one. You'll be going into a stadium. There won't be fans in the stands. I'm just curious, without obviously giving any detail away, but how will that affect how you guys operate? Will Baker use a silent count? Will, everyone will be able to hear what's being said on the field. So I'm just curious what that element of no crowd noise, no home field advantage, how that's going to impact what you guys try to do.
Yeah, Daryl, we've tried to replicate that noise out here on the practice field. So we'll have that just playing on a loop as we practice. So the guys are used to that. It's going to be unusual. It's going to be a little eerie. But I think once we get through it for both teams, once you get through it, it'll kind of just become the norm.
Nick Shook.
Hey, Coach. It probably feels like 100 years ago at this point, but when you first got the job, what type of team did you encounter and how have they changed under your leadership?
I think, Nick, going back, it does feel like 100 years, but I think we've added a bunch of smart and tough football players via the draft, via free agency, via trade. I think there's a core amount of guys here that I really believe in as teammates, as players. And then I think we've gotten to know each other a lot once we finally got in person. We did the virtual for a very long time. So I would tell you in the last month, whatever it is, 6 weeks, just getting around the players, it's nice to put a face to the name, a face that has a mask on, but at least a face to the name and kind of having some more personal interaction with the guys.
And you guys have emphasized this no bark, all bite type of mantra or whatever you want to call it. Where does Nick Chubb fit into that?
Nick is so mindful about his job. I think he's got the great mentality that a lot of the good ones do. Do your job and do it as well as you can. And I think the players feed off of that when you have a guy like Nick's caliber who just focuses on his job and makes sure he's got his job down pat. And I think the guys really see that.
All right, we'll go to Aditi and then Mary Kay. We'll have to wrap up. So Aditi Kinkabwala, your line is open.
Hi, going back to what Jake asked, obviously it's your prerogative to have whatever gamesmanship you'd like, but really ultimately for your offensive philosophy, does it really make a difference who the play caller is? Is Alex really that different from you? Is one more likely to take risks than the other?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, Aditi. There is gamesmanship and, there's no preseason. Obviously now, if you go to a normal preseason, it's not like you show much anyway. But it's something that we'll announce when we feel appropriate.
But is there a difference? Do you really think the two of you would call a game extremely differently?
I won't speculate.
Okay, then one more question for you. One of your colleagues in the league said that it's actually you guys that have an advantage because John Harbaugh has to do more speculating than you do. You pretty much know what their offense is. You know what their defense is. You know how they deploy their personnel. And you're completely unknown to some degree. Do you buy that?
No, I don't. And I would tell you every year teams come in with a wrinkle. I can promise you there's things that they've been working on in practice that we haven't seen that wasn't on tape in 2019. That's just the nature of the first game. And I go back to the preseason. Even without the preseason, it's not like us or another team would be showing a lot of that stuff in the preseason. You're saving it for week one. So that's just part of the deal going into week one.
And last one to Mary Kay.
Yeah, Coach, just what does make Lamar Jackson so good, so hard to defend? And, will you be, burning the midnight oil a little bit this week, trying to worry about this one?
He's dynamic. I mean, he can run it. He can throw it. They have design runs for him, and then he can take off on a pass play. He can hurt you with his arm. He's accurate as a passer. I just think he's a great player. I mean, I grew up watching Randall Cunningham, and that's what it looks like to me, a guy that can just do everything on the field. He's a great player.